Wow, I just love the conversation we had with Emma. Her, English British accent is playful, and
Yeah, with a little
she's
South African thrown in.
yeah, it's so fun to listen to. But meanwhile, she speaks to my heart because she speaks of heart math, and as you know, that's one of my favorite core tools. I mean, I think back to my daughter's, automobile accident and really trying to get a diagnosis first was the biggest thing. But, finding heart math and realizing I didn't have to put my daughter on medication,
Mm.
that there was something outside of that. And this heart math, it changed everything. I mean, it didn't, I can't say it was the number one thing that fixed it because there was a lot of things that went into it, but it was a big piece of her healing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it comes back to that idea of there being lots of things that we do. We don't just have one thing, but when you bring all your toolbox with all the
Yes.
things, and that's what heart math is. It's another tool, and that's what we're all about is giving people, teaching people these tools that can help bring them to a more centered, calm place, or in your daughter's situation, and actually more physically healthy. And Emma was just amazing talking about it, her certifications and her knowledge. And she's fun and funny. I really enjoyed
She's
her.
funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys are gonna love this one.
The world is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DiManno. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We are really glad that you're joining us today. And we are speaking today with Emma O'Brien, who is a certified heart math coach. We're going to tell you what that means. She's also a Martha Beck Wayfinder trained life coach, and she blends compassionate, intuitive, and practical coaching skills with her extensive expertise in helping her clients to shift their mindsets and change their lives for the better. She helps folks get unstuck, recover from life burnout, overcome, overwhelm, and reignite their passion and purpose, which is why we're all here. And alongside her coaching practice, Emma brings 2 decades of entrepreneurial expertise to the table. She is an award-winning dog photographer, and she's run a successful photography studio in both the UK and South Africa. She's adept at helping her clients with small business marketing and strategy. She also hosts the Lemons and Pineapples podcast, which is a weekly show where she shares life hacks, coaching tools, and inspiring, insightful guest interviews. So all of that sounds fantastic. We are so looking forward to speaking with you, Emma. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Oh my goodness. So I think Emma and I might be old souls for a couple of reasons. And so number one, this weekend I was spending some time with Emma and watching her Lemons and Pineapples podcast. And so I came across this idea that Emma is also a 3 on the Enneagram. So I am too. And so Marcy and I have done we've done workshops. I'm into the Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram snob, just in case you're wondering. So I can relate. She's like a full-on workaholic, like all the things. But then I'm super excited also because Marcy and I have these core tools platform, and one of the tools that we use a lot and teach is around heart math. And we have not had a heart math certified expert on the show. So we're going to get into a lot of the specifics about HeartMath because everyone else probably just thinks Marci and I are a little woo-woo on the HeartMath thing. So we're going to get into
We're
some of the
woo-woo on all the things, but
and all the
we're
things.
proudly
Great.
woo-woo.
But
Love
we're gonna get techie and a little sciencey. Marci knows I'm into that. So
Yeah.
without further ado, Emma, give us a little bit of background about, we know you're a parent too. Talk about that a little bit and why you do the things you do.
So it's great to be here. I'm really excited for our chat today. So yeah, I've got a daughter who is 20 and a bit, and I had a very interesting parenting journey with her. I had her when I was 22, and it's funny, I look at it now and I see my daughter Rosie and I think, geez, I wasn't much older than she is now when I had a child, and I would not leave my daughter in charge of a baby. And I guess it's just
Mine either. She's 21. I wouldn't either. Yes.
no.
No.
But I look at that and I think, my goodness, I was so young when I did that. And I'm 43 now. There's no plans to have any more children. I've got dog children now. And I look at that and I think, with the coaching tools I've learned and the journey I have been on, I look at it and I think I was so ill-equipped to parent effectively. I ended up kind of single parenting in a relationship, and then her father and I got married when I was 24, got divorced when I was 26, and then met somebody else and relocated to South Africa with Rosie. That relationship then broke down. We were here for a while. She then went back to the UK. I mean, this kid of mine has been kind of has bounced around so much. And I think it's interesting. Part of me feels horribly guilty about it because I just think, gosh, I could have done so much better. And then I look at it and think, I have this super resilient, very independent daughter.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I think sometimes we can end up beating ourselves up for experiences we had when at the time we didn't know any better. And I think this is why it's of such huge value to learn things like HeartMath with its nervous system regulation tools. And what I get from HeartMath is that real ability to tap into my own inner wisdom, I think, in being able to listen to myself.
Yes.
So much of what we have discussions here about, and Marcia and I are really adamant about this, is that there's so much of this finger pointing at the kids, and it's a different generation, and they don't do this and the millennials don't do that, and we're kind of tired of it, honestly. And so the discussions that we really have with most people and most parents is that it really comes from the parent, right? And this is what you speak to. If the parent's willing to do some work and to have some conversations about our parenting and get honest about that, and teach some of the things that we learned along the way, then that's what being a warrior parent is, right?
And not pointing that finger back at ourselves either.
Yes.
Like you said before we started, we're all doing the best we can with what we've got. And so, it's easy in hindsight to say, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. A lot of that is what I think is more important is learning, like you said, going within, getting that insight, and then accountability. Like when we share with our kids, which used to be something that you just didn't do, you didn't share your faults or your mess ups. So now we can say, I wish I'd done that better. I did the best I could at the time, but I see that, this might have been better. And that's just so, it's empowering for us. It's empowering for our kids too, because now we're both learning and they're understanding that we're owning it. And again, that we did the best we could at the time. One more thing, like you raised a kid who's like, she's had this experience that's going to serve her.
Totally. And she's actually now studying psychology, which I think is really interesting. So
yes, more of that. We need that.
More of that. She was telling me she was learning about attachment styles, and I was sort of ready to climb under the table because I thought, geez, mate, I'm hoping you forgive me when you learn about attachment styles, and probably with all the terrible ones. But it's funny. And I found with her, I mean, she ended up coming back to me in 2019 in South Africa because my ex-husband had I don't know what he had. Let's not get into my ex-husband, but he had something. And he phoned me one day and he just said to me, I'm sorry, your daughter needs to come and live back with you. And she was halfway through her GCSEs in the UK at school. I mean, it was a complete disaster. So I had her back at just coming up to 16. You ladies know you've had teenagers. They're revolting.
Oh, yes.
I had a moment where I thought, I realized why some animals eat their own young, because just it was so challenging. And I phoned my mum and I just said to her, do you know what? I'm so sorry. And I realize now why you parented the way you did, why I was told no when I was told no. And it was just this light bulb moment of, oh my goodness. And then she said to me, because again, she, we have nobody's childhood's perfect. And I find in books I read and media, and I'd be interested on your take, lots of people will bemoan their childhoods and it was really awful and parents could have done better. And I think bar experiences where children are abused, none of our childhoods are perfect and all of our parents were doing the best they could with what they had. And I've looked back on mine and I've gone, oh, that's why they were a bit absent, because they were worrying about money and trying to pay for things. And I think my own experience of parenting has allowed me to forgive my own parents and kind of respect them a little bit more, I think. So I'm hoping Rosie gets to that point. It was an eye-opener. My mum said to me, you know what, Emma, you've got to remember at 16 their brains don't work properly, so just try and be patient.
True.
This is true. They got till they're 25, and then
then it's finally done cooking.
Yeah, I think my husband's still cooking. He's he's old, but I don't know. I don't know who made up that 25 rule, but
one of the themes that's been coming up lately is this idea that when you start to heal and heal trauma, you heal forward and backwards. That's 7 generations, and so I love that where you're talking to your mom and you're seeing and you're forgiving her. So you're healing back and you're setting new healing patterns that move forward. And that's why we're here. So,
oh my gosh, this weekend I had an opportunity. There's a woman we had, if you haven't had her on the podcast, you should. Her name's Lainey Love. She's Canadian and she wrote this amazing book with all these powerful women, but I'm a large trauma child. And so was she. And so a lot of this is about healing all that. But there's a piece that stuck with me and it says, your trauma is your treasure, right? If you can dig into that and if you can help to heal that, now you're on your way to this life as a human being. And that really, really stuck with me. So anyway, man, we could go down this road, but I'm really here because I want to get into some of the HeartMath that might seem boring, but it has been one of the most powerful tools that I have used. I've used it for my daughter. She had POTS syndrome. I don't know if you're aware of POTS, but postural orthostatic tachycardic syndrome. So her heart rate, because of a trauma, car accident, her heart rate was beating about 160 beats a minute, laying down for years.
Oh, yeah.
So I took her to a training in Dallas, and HeartMath was the ticket. And it's not just like, oh, you do the thing and now you're fixed and whatever. So being that you're certified, talk a little bit about some of the terms that we use around HeartMath. What is HeartMath? What is heart-brain coherence? Let's just start there.
So HeartMath, as I have come to interpret it, is really a set of emotional and nervous system regulation tools whereby you are equipped with the ability to choose how you are feeling in a given moment. And when we're able to choose how we are feeling, we're able to start to really influence what's happening with our autonomic nervous system. And when we do that, we're able to start to calm our inner hormonal systems in the body because we're able to slow our heart rate down, we're then able to get that autonomic nervous system into alignment. I think there are so many of us these days who are constantly in a stress response. I know my go-to tends to be going into a flight response. And the HeartMath tools essentially give you the ability to recognize when that's starting to happen and to say, hang on a minute, I'm going to choose something else now. And I'm going to very consciously start to shift the feelings I'm having internally, which then start to shift your physiology. And one of the pieces of HeartMath is the heart rate variability, which is the difference in your heart rate as it goes beat to beat. When we're very stressed, that difference is very small. So you can end up with quite a high heart rate a lot of the time. And fundamentally, it's very bad for you. It's very bad for your heart to be at an accelerated heart rate. And heart rate variability is about being able to slow it down so we get a good variation between the two. So to give an example, when I put my M-Wave Pro on my ear and I do my HeartMath, my heart rate variability will go probably between 60 and 80-ish, depending how much coffee I've had.
Yes.
I found it's quite interesting doing it when I've done exercise. So I try and do it before that. But and you can actually see it. It's amazing to watch the M-Wave Pro. You clip it on your ear. For anybody who's what is that? It's a little device. You clip it on your ear. I clip it into the computer. You can get one you pop into your phone, and you can literally watch what's happening with your heart rate variability. And I've tested it out. I've sat and not really concentrated on trying to bring myself into coherence, which is into a positive, calm state. And if I scroll through my phone, for instance, my heart rate variability really shrinks. And it's very, the pattern is very jagged. It's very incoherent, which should tell you everything really about the impact social media has
on
us.
Yeah. So, so going back a bit, so, I don't think most people understand that, of course we say, well, everything in the body is connected, but there is a very direct connection between your heart and your brain. And there is something like 40,000 neurites actually in your heart. Right. And so that the concept of bringing those two things together is really remarkable. Marci and I used to do these live workshops here, and we had, I don't know, 5 or 6 of those little meters, and we sat in tables with 5 or 6 kids at our tables, and then were able to practice that. And the look on their face when they could get themselves to be in coherence was really remarkable. So people don't even know how that might feel, right? That's kind of a big deal. That's kind of a big deal. Now we talk about the meter quite a bit, but there's a really easy way to do it. Well, easy for some of us who practice it for a while, but so there are kind of 4 steps that we can do. You want to walk through those steps so anyone who's listening, like, oh, well, this meter sounds great, but how could I use HeartMath to sort of calm and center myself without that?
Yeah. So the first thing with HeartMath is heart focused breathing is the first step that we get into, which is you can do it with your eyes. Let's say you can do it with your eyes shut. You can do it with your eyes open whilst you're driving a car. So don't shut your eyes whilst you're driving. But you can do you can do heart focused breathing anywhere. That's the beautiful thing about it. You don't have to be in a meditative state. And essentially that is bringing your focus to the area around your heart, slowing your breathing. So you're breathing in for a count of 5 and out for a count of 5. I think the regularity of having the in-breath and out-breath pretty much the same is quite important. And you can simply imagine breathing in and out of the area around your heart. It is as simple as that. And I think it's such a ridiculously simple technique that people discount it because we all breathe, but most of us don't breathe very well. And to start you off, if you're training in HeartMath and wanting to use it, is to do that 3 times a day for 2 or 3 minutes and just start to get yourself into the habit of doing that. And it's quite fascinating when just that will get you into your body, and then you can start to go, oh, hang on a minute, what is happening from the neck downwards here? Because I think most people are so out of touch with what's happening in their bodies. And then once you start to be in touch with that, you'll start to notice when you're feeling calm. And then perhaps more importantly, you'll start to notice when you're going into a stress response. Because I think most people, unless you pay attention to it, you have no idea if you're in a stress response or not.
Exactly. Yeah, that awareness is, I mean, that's the first step. We say this almost every episode. Awareness is that first step to where you start to understand that, whoa, what's going on right now? Like my stomach hurts, or I'm breathing shallow, or like, so I just had this experience with whatever, you know, a boss, a teacher, a loved one, you know, or some guy on the road who just opened his window and yelled something awful at you. And now your heart's racing and all these things. So when you can take a moment and say, oh, look what my nervous system is responding to that. Now now I get to choose. Am I going to get all into that and be like, yo, you know, yell out the window back at him? Or am I going to let that go and go into something? And this is what's beautiful about this, is it is so practical. Like you said, you could do it while you're driving. Just put that focus there and then count the breath in and out, regulate, same in, same out, slow it down, and then watch what happens.
I think that what you said is super important about the practice of it, right? So, so what ultimately happens, and what we learned with my daughter, it is the practice of it, because what happens is your body starts to get into a biofeedback loop, right? So if you're doing that consistently, even though you don't have some crazy POTS diagnoses, we're all having some sort of POTS moment like every day, right? But if you got into the practice of using it proactively, and maybe not even like, oh, I don't have to be having a moment, but what if you just got up every morning and did that, and did it every night, and maybe at noontime, like, right?
Set a little timer on your phone.
That's it. That's it. And the magic thing with it is, and I using a word like magic, I know you ladies, so we're okay. We can go woo woo because I'm about to go woo woo. But
let's go.
The next step for anybody listening is like, wow, why would I pay you to learn HeartMath when you've just told me the technique? So it goes more, you know, there's kind of more to it. And the next step with it really is starting to cultivate a positive, energizing emotion, joy, gratitude, love, peace, acceptance, something like that, and starting to feel into that. When you can, and again, that is a practice of doing that on a daily basis. And it's very, very interesting to me. So when I first started doing the HeartMath, I started to pay attention to how the world around me responded to me when I'd done my HeartMath exercises. So when I'd done a heart lock-in, which is essentially like a meditation. So for 15 minutes, you sit and you will concentrate on cultivating gratitude, for example. My days unfold very differently when I've done the HeartMath. And by that, I mean, I can be on the road and somebody will just let me in traffic. I can be, it happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was in the pharmacy. I'd gone to pick a prescription up, and there was a gentleman at the counter and the lady pharmacist behind one of the other counters. And I'm just stood there. I don't know them. They both turned around and smiled and waved at me. And I thought, I know exactly why that's happened.
Yes. You're vibrating at a higher energy level, and it's very attractive to people. Yes.
That's it. Lovely. And it's the last little bit of science, and Debbie, you can, and Marci, you can add to this, is that the science behind HeartMath, because we've just gone a bit woo-woo with it, is that our hearts have an electromagnetic field. That electromagnetic field radiates outwards up to 3 feet around our bodies. We are bumping into other people's heart fields, and what we put out in our field influences the people around us, hence the people in the pharmacy giving me a wave, I imagine. And also, hence, when you are in a foul mood, you have other people who are reactive with you.
Yes.
I've also started to become quite aware if I suddenly feel a bit strange or a bit anxious or a bit irritated or something. And I've started to realize actually sometimes it's not mine.
Yes.
And
yes.
That's quite interesting because I've just thought, what is going on here? I'm struggling. I'm having a weird day, and nothing's happened. And then you think, oh, I've had an interaction with someone who wasn't in a great space.
Yeah.
So
They're rubbing off on you.
They're
Yes.
rubbing off on you, literally.
Yes.
So your vibes are vibing around you. So
Yes.
it's something to bear in mind. And I think the question I love about HeartMath, and it's something that drew me to train with it, is this question of what are you feeding the field on a wider scale?
Feeding the field. I love that. I've never heard it said that way. I love that.
Yeah, it's what you are vibrating out by the way you are feeling inside goes out. This electromagnetic field is measurable. This isn't auras. This is a measurable thing.
Yes.
And we're putting that out into the collective. And I think we all have a responsibility to manage ourselves and our feelings. And we can do that. And it's very easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And better for us too, as well as better for the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I remember now there was, I don't know if they're doing this anymore, but HeartMath once or twice a year would get this world connectivity piece, right? So the same time throughout the world, everyone would go and have meditations about something in the world they're trying to heal. And I've participated in those, and wow, is that powerful, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we need more of that. I haven't seen anything recently about that, but we could use a lot of good energy right now with everything that's going on. So
Absolutely.
so the moral of the story is that we all need to really start living from our hearts and get out of our heads, right? Wow,
right,
it
what's
sounds
step
so
3?
sounds
We're
so
up to
easy.
step 3. I don't want to leave people hanging.
You mean on the HeartMath pieces?
Yeah.
Well, there's a few different steps. There's a few different steps with it. So there's the heart focused breathing. There's the quick coherence technique, which is the ability to do the heart focused breathing and then start to notice what's going on and then make a conscious shift. There's the exercise of the heart lock-in, which is actually spending some time really consciously cultivating each day a feeling. It starts to build up our emotional resiliency banks. And I think that's the thing with the power with the HeartMath is when we are more consistently in a good space, we cope better with the challenges that life throws at us. And I think that's super important. It takes us out of a space of being reactive with other people and into a space of being responsive. One of the other exercises I was taught with the HeartMath training was the conscious. I'm just trying to think what can't the exact term has just left my brain, but it's a communication exercise of learning to listen to people, and before you snap back with an immediate response, just start to think about, especially in conflict situations, what would be a better way to respond to this right now, as opposed to just firing off the first thing that comes to mind. And this is great in a work environment, to be able to be in control of what's happening internally. And I think when we have that emotional resilience, we're not so easily triggered by other people.
Yes.
And when we're not triggered, we don't get reactive, which of course it has a cascading effect in a workplace,
it's like a crossroad.
in a home.
Yeah, you're there and you're at this place of conflict, and you can go this way and feed it, or you can go this way and diffuse, or like you say, intentionally respond versus
Yes.
the reacting. And wow, it's
Yes.
so powerful.
And it's so
Changes
simple.
everything.
Well, yeah, you talk about that. We talk about the inside job all the time, but essentially, we're talking about what you were just talking about is relationships. But imagine that practicing heart math, you can have a better relationship with yourself,
Yes.
Yes.
right? Right. How important is that? I think without having that, we can't have the other relationships that we're hoping or wishing for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Totally agree. And I think the one thing I found from it when we come to that relationship with self is I have become a lot kinder to myself. My inner talk has shifted. And I think to bring it back
Yes.
to parenting is I think if I'd have done heart math when I was raising my daughter, I'd have done it a lot more patient with a lot more patience. And I think you also then model something better to children. And I think
Yes.
when as parents you're able to demonstrate emotional resiliency,
Mm-hmm.
children
Yeah.
can learn that as well.
Yes. From the
So I think
get-go.
that's from the
Yeah.
get-go. I mean,
Yeah.
in an ideal world, we're not in an ideal world, and this isn't about, like we said, this is not about beating ourselves up with parenting.
No,
But
no.
I think, like I'm sure you'll have found, Debbie, with your daughter, is it's a game changer when you're able to just have that moment of this isn't great. However, I could choose something else.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that is part of our mission. That's why we started Core Experience, was to teach these tools to kids. And our initial thought was teenagers. We'll teach teenagers because they were struggling so much. But the more you start practicing it and the more you look into it, you're like, okay, wait, you got to start early. Get them when they're like anyone. You can teach a 3-year-old how to breathe that way as soon as they can count, or they don't even have to count. Just that understanding of slowing it and focusing on the heart. And then we started to realize, oh, wait, you got to have the parents, you got to have the caregivers. And so that's what we try to do with Core, is bring it to the family, to everyone. That's why we do the podcast. But that's like the dominoes falling to the dominoes of peace, the dominoes of being centered, being calmer, being less reactive and more intentional. And
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do.
And I think it's so valuable with communication as well, because I know, for me growing up, it was often quite difficult. My dad was quite stressed a lot of the time. So I found it very difficult to go and ask for something or say something. And I think if, as a parent, you're able to be a bit more regulated and to create a safe space for your kids to be able to come and say something to you without
Yes.
fear of you going, because children
Yes.
don't talk if they fear being shouted at. Or
Yes.
I know for me
Exactly.
as a child, I pottered around trying to make sure I didn't anger anybody. And
Yes.
then
Yes. We're all
For
and then
anyone
shaking our
you
heads.
listening, raising hands, owning up to yes, that
Yeah.
was for sure.
Raising both hands.
Yeah, me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if you're able to create a space for children to come and say, I did something bad, or I've got a question I'm not sure about. And
Right.
if they know they can trust that you're going to be calm, you might not be very happy about it
Yeah.
necessarily.
Yes.
But at least they know there's not going to be a nuclear reaction.
That is
Children
so
communicate with
true.
us.
Yes, that like that point. And we recently had a gentle parenting expert, and that's so important. Like, now you've made a space for communication, because we wonder why kids do shut down or don't tell things that are being done to them that are awful, because that space isn't there for them to feel safe to share it. And that's transformational, from simple things to, like you say, oh, I broke that figurine in the living room with my ball. I know I was told not to. How do you have a communication about that without it being the explosion, to the much bigger things that kids need to feel safe
Yeah.
sharing with their parents or their caregivers or whoever that person is.
Yeah.
And our hope is that they can bring this to the classroom also.
Yes.
Like, right? Because
Yeah.
that sometimes is not always not everyone feels safe
Yeah.
in that environment too, depending on we every child's had that teacher, right? But if every child had the tool to be able to calm around it, that creates
Right.
resiliency, and that allows them to push through that, because not everyone's gonna be in a good mood all day. Right?
Yeah,
We're all
and
gonna
that's
deal with
one
those
thing.
people all day. Right?
That's one reason we really still try. We put a lot of effort into trying to get into the schools, and we're still very open to it. It's hard, or it has been hard. But this idea that a dysregulated child cannot access their education. So when you've got kids in overwhelm in the classroom, and you're like, well, they're going to stay for the whole lesson because they need to learn this, they're not learning it. They're trying to survive. So you've got to find ways to, whether it's allowing kids to go to the wellness center, whether it's in your very room having a space where you can go back and sit in a comfy chair and put some headphones on and do some heart breathing, some heart math, some heart brain coherence or meditation, whatever works. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and then return and be able now to look at whatever the education is. So changing that paradigm of they must be there in their seat listening to, let's first make sure they're emotionally able to access their education. So dealing with what's going on in their body, and other things too. Are they hungry? Are they living in a car? Like, there's a lot of reasons kids aren't able to be present. Is there trauma and chaos in their household? What can I do to help them feel safe and calm, so that then they can actually take that next step and learn, and which is a
Wow.
whole other bigger
Yeah.
bigger thing, but it's all
Another
related.
podcast for sure.
All related.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I think we're running out of time. But Emma,
Yes.
I'm so grateful for you
Yeah.
and the work you're doing, really teaching us that, that our heart intelligence is really the what you call the seat of our emotional intelligence, right? And
Mm.
I think we all really need to do better with our emotions, right? So I'm super
Yeah.
grateful for you. I'm grateful for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a really, really wonderful conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like we could probably have extended it for
Yes, that's why we need to have you back, and we will do that. But yes,
Yes, yes.
wonderful conversation. Oh, before you go, so I know we have lots of wait, do you want to say a little bit about how people can find you, like to do some work with you or listen to your podcast? We will put it in the show notes too, but why don't you go ahead and let us know?
Thanks, Marci.
Yeah.
So my website is emmaobryancoach.com. So you can go and find out about me there. I'm on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook at Emma O'Brien Coach. And the podcast is Lemons and Pineapples, which you'll find on Apple and Spotify. You'll see a picture of me not holding any fruit, but
Thinking
you'll
about
find
it.
it there, thinking about
Yes.
it. And I am actually by the time this airs, it'd probably be live. I am actually about to launch a short 4-week intro to HeartMath course for anybody who
Oh,
is interested in learning the fundamentals, which we've touched on today, just to really have the tools to be able to calm the day-to-day stress and to be able to just show up in a better space, so you can be better for you and you can be better for your people as well in your life. So I think it's so important, and it's life-changing. So I
Yes.
know we're
Yeah.
all on the same page with how
Yes.
much we love it. So
okay.
Wonderful.
That's
Thank you,
awesome.
Emma.
thank you very much.
And now for your core mental health break. This is your opportunity to take a moment to support your mental wellness, your peace of mind, your own ease and grace. Take some time every day to support your mental health. You deserve it, and it matters. Pause. Receive a deep breath in through your nose, filling your belly, allowing it to expand. Pause. Release the air through your nose, slowly. Pause. Receive another breath through the nose, allowing the belly to expand. Pause. Release the air again through the nose, slowly. Receive one final deep breath through the nose, allowing the belly to expand. Pause. And release that air back through your nose, gently, easily. Thank you for pausing for yourself today. Your mental health is important, and you deserve peace, calm, and ease in your life every day. So please choose to receive it. It is always available right at your center, your heart, your core. Stay well, friends. Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or financial supporters. I'm Debbie DiManno.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.